Hello, everybody. Um, this is going to be basically a show and tell about a trip that I took with my brother-in-law to Peru in May of 2024. So it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. Rob's here with us tonight. He decided to show up to get a good look at what he actually saw a year and a half ago because he probably hasn't looked at his photos in a while. Um, the flyer said the butterflies of Peru, but it's more specific than that. It's going to be the butterflies of Manu Road. And I don't know how familiar any of you are with the Manu Road, but it's been described as the most biodiverse road in the world. Probably, and I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, it's because it starts at around 10,000 feet and it goes all the way down almost to sea level inside the Amazon rainforest. So it covers quite a bit of terrain and habitats in the I don't know how long it is. It must be about 20, 30 miles. We didn't cover the entire road. We started at the top and went down as low as 1,700 feet, which is a little bit lower than High Point of New Jersey, but that was what's called the foothills of the Andes. And it was like a tropical, subtropical forest. But we got a lot of butterflies that you would see in the Amazon.
So this was the eastern slope of the Andes.
Yes. Now, why is the page not? Oh, there we go. Okay. So just to give everybody a frame of reference. So Peru is the red outline on the left photo or left drawing of South America, and Lima, this where we went was in the southern end of Peru. We flew into Lima. Then we took a flight to Cuzco, which is at about 12,000 feet. And from there, we went to a series of three lodges, the Waikecha Lodge, the Cock of the Rock Lodge, and the Manu Bio Lodge. And we did birding and we did butterflying. It wasn't solely a butterflying trip. And actually, we probably did a little bit more birding than butterflying. But we saw a lot of both. So the Manu Road, so you can see in the lower part of the center, there's Cusco that we flew in. The Manu Road doesn't start up until around just past Paucartambo. So you take this road and there's a lake here, and I'm going to show you a couple photos of this lake. This is at 10,000 feet. It's a giant lake with a wide surrounding marsh area. So then this road, you can see all the little squiggles in it. It turns into, this is paved all the way until you get to the entrance of the Manu Bioreserve. And at the entrance, it's paved, and then it quickly turns into an unpaved road. And so from on here all the way down to here was basically unpaved until we got into Pilcapata. There was some paved roads just in the center of that, but not much there. The Manu Road continues. It's this Route 103. It continues a little bit further until it dead ends at a river, and you can go take boats upriver into the Amazon rainforest. We didn't really go into the Amazon rainforest, as I said. We kind of stopped in the foothills. So that's the route we took. We were in three lodges at three different elevations. So the first one we stopped at was Waikecha. That's almost at 10,000 feet. That was kind of just a way station. We didn't spend a lot of time there. There weren't a lot of butterflies in the upper Manu. There's largely just some satyrs and some skipperlings and that kind of thing. Nothing real exciting. Where most of the action occurred was in the Cock of the Rock Lodge and the Manu Biostation, which is, again, I said it's at 1,700 feet. In terms of latitude, just to give you another frame of reference, Cusco and the Manu Road is at about 13.5 degrees south of the equator. The equivalent of that on the north would be basically across Honduras and Costa Rica. So that's roughly how far away from the equator we were. And, given the changes in elevation, that also affected the temperature and everything. So we went in May, and it was a great time. We did have some rain. at times, but we lucked out. We got a lot of good weather and we saw a lot of things. So in terms of the identifications I used for the photos you're going to see, the book on the left is a free book, the free PDF you can get online. There's a website called butterflycatalogs.com, and they have these amazing free PDFs. This one's specific to Manu Road. They do one for all of Colombia. They do one for parts of Colombia. They do Bolivia. They do Ecuador. They have parts of Brazil. And you can see this one here. This is just for part of Peru. It's just the Manu Road. This is the last page of the photos. It's 812. So these are substantial guides. And what they give you, the reason they're so long is because they give you multiple photos of each species. Because as you know, there's lots of variation. And you have one photo of a species, you can't always tell, when you're looking at the species you have in front of you, it may not look like the one in the guidebook if you only have one example. So it's an amazing resource for tropical butterflies in South America. Our guide told us about this. And then for common names, I actually used Dr. Glassberg's butterflies in Mexico and Central America, particularly for the butterflies at the lower elevations. There's a lot of commonality in terms of what you can see in the southern part of Central America and in the foothills of the Amazon in Peru, and same in Colombia and everywhere north from Peru. So that was a good resource for common names, because not everybody likes to just have the Latin name. The common names are more fun. They're usually more descriptive. So that lake I told you about, that we stopped at on our way from Cusco to get to the Manu Road, is called Laguna Huacarpay. And as I said, it's at 10,000 feet. It's a nice sized village. It's a big sized lake. You can see there's houses on the shore, and there's a lot of wetlands around it. There were some ancient ruins of Indian, probably Inca or some kind of Indian tribe, and some interesting birds here too. This is the many-colored rush tyrant. The bird in the center is the mountain caracara, and the rail is a rail that's up there at 10,000 feet called the Plumbeous rail. There were some other birds we saw too. There weren't a lot of butterflies. It's a very dry habitat. It's very high in elevation. We saw a couple butterflies, but we didn't really spend a lot of time there looking for butterflies. On the way back, we did stop there. We tried baiting for butterflies, and the bait really doesn't work there because of the habitat. It's almost like a Sonora desert kind of habitat. There's some very interesting plants, but in terms of butterflies, there really wasn't a lot. So there were some blues. On the left is the Kalanga blue. The one on the bottom looks a lot like a fiery skipper, but in the guidebook, it doesn't say that there's fiery skippers in this part of Peru. And the one in the guidebook that had this name, this looked the closest to it, whatever this is. I'm not familiar with that genus. The butterfly on the right looks almost like a moth. It's pretty nondescript. It's a blue, and it's in a genus that was named in honor of Vladimir Nabokov, the famous or infamous writer, who was also a lepidopterist who specialized in the blue butterflies. And this genus has, I think, 3 species in it. And it was recently described, like in the last 10 or 20 years, and it was named in honor of Vladimir Nabokov. So that was a way station passing through Huacarpay, mostly to see some of those birds, like that many-colored rush tyrant. We continued on the road. We went through some towns. We had some lunch. And then we got to the entrance to the park, Manu. That's the sign you see when you come on the entrance of Manu National Park. We didn't see a lot of, and this is officially where you get onto Manu Road. And you can see on the left, that's the guide and my brother-in-law, Rob. walking down the road. There's not a lot of traffic. We rarely saw cars the entire time we were on Manu Road, which was the rest of the time on the trip. It's paved here, as I said, right near at the entrance to the park, but it quickly turns uh, into an unpaved road that gets very windy and has like, and you look out the side of the window of your car and it's like a drop of, hundreds of feet and rivers down below. And sometimes the road looked like it was like kind of washing out on the edges. And it was a very interesting experience. And on the other side, you've got a wall and there's like constant water dripping down and eroding the road. And so it was a very neat place, a very wild place. It was a really interesting place to go. Some interesting plants. I don't know what this plant is on the right, but I threw it in there. That was something we saw up at the top of the road. So we spent a night at Waikecha Cloud Forest Biological Station. It's actually a research station and with some rooms for a lodge on top of it, because that was our day, was going to that Walker Pie and all that. And then we spend the night and we woke up and this is what you see from the lodge. This is a picture I took in the morning. And you can see towards the left side, that winding white line. That's the road we came up from Cusco. And you can see in the background, the mountains. So we wound our way up to here. It's a very pretty place. There weren't a lot of butterflies, as I said, up in the high elevations. So we did see some satyrs. There's an Andean longtail on the left bottom. It looks like any of a whole number of longtail skippers, but this is the one that's in this location. The butterfly on the left on top looks a lot like our American lady. It's very similar. I have another picture of one I'll show you later that I saw at a different location where the colors are brighter than this one, but the colors are slightly different than our American lady. But in many other respects, it looks a lot like it. And in the center is a very interesting satyr. And one of the things that really impressed me on this trip, I hadn't done a lot of tropical butterflying, was the variety of satyrs. I have a great appreciation for satyrs now that I didn't have from just relying on, the handful that we have here on the East Coast. I always liked the pearly eye, but there's some pretty special satyrs down in the tropics. So this is the upper Manu Road. We didn't, like as I said, there weren't a lot of species. We did see some interesting birds, though. These are pictures I took from Waikecha on our way down. We birded our way down to Cock of the Rock Lodge. There's a Jungus pygmy owl in the center there. Chris and I were talking a little bit earlier before the meeting started about how a lot of these pygmy owls and screech owls that you see in the tropics, there's a million of them and they all look pretty much the same. All the pygmy owls look like pygmy owls, but there's probably a dozen species, and the same thing with the screech owls. A woodpecker on the lower left is the crimson-mantled woodpecker. Above that's one of the fernarids. It's a pearl tree runner. And we have two tanagers on the right. On the top is a scarlet-bellied mountain tanager, and below is a grass green tanager, which I think is one of the stranger tanagers I've ever seen. It's got like a brown face, bright orange bill, and that green color. It's an odd bird. So then we made our way to the mid-level. This is this is about 5,200 feet, this lodge. This was the first lodge where we really settled in, spent a couple of days birding and butterflying. And I'll tell you a little bit about the butterflying and how we did it and how we bait it. The guide down there, you can see him. Miguel is on the left, looking out the window, probably at a bird or something. He has a website. He has a small company, and he'll run a butterfly trip. He'll run a bird trip. He'll run either. He'll mix the two. That's what we asked him to do. But he's seen every bird in Peru. His life list has every single species in Peru, and he's seen, I don't know how many butterflies he's seen, but he's documented quite a few. And he's a kind of an interesting guy because he likes to go off on these trips, like where he has to be airlifted in and backpack and camp to go look for rare birds in the middle of the jungle. But he was very accessible to us, and he was the way he plays is I've seen people put out like a mixture of rotten fruit, bananas mixed with beer and that kind of thing. He has a different method that I hadn't heard before, which is that he creates these mixes of urine, bird excrement, and salts and minerals, and he puts it into a pump up spray like you see like a pest control or like or landscapers that are spraying something. He'll pump it under pressure, and then we'll find a spot where we want a butterfly. And usually it was where a stream crossed the road. And he would pump it up, or his assistant would do the dirty work and walk along about 100 yards on either side of the river and just spraying all the bushes on both sides of the road. He'd walk up one side, spray, and then walk down and spray the other side. And within half an hour, we would spend hours just walking back and forth on that area. And every time you walk back and forth, you'd see different butterflies. It was incredible. So it was a good method. It wasn't like just putting some stuff on one stump. It was covering large areas so that you had a lot to explore. So to answer the question that's on everyone's mind, yes, you can see cock of the rock birds at the Cock of the Rock Lodge. We saw a number of them right on Manu Road. We didn't have to go sit in a blind or anything at dawn. This was in the middle of the day. We had 8 males and 3 females flying around, and males chasing each other and whatnot.
Heard.
What's that?
And you heard it. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
it's be a full sound.
yeah. So the first place we spent, yes, the darker one, yes, yeah. That's so when she's on her nest, she's just not quite as obvious. So the first place where we did the baiting was at a chasm that was a couple miles going back towards Cusco from the Cock of the Rock Lodge. And you can see this bridge. And I tried to find out some more information about this bridge by doing some Google searches, and I couldn't find a single mention anywhere of this bridge, which, as you can see, is like it's not a rickety little bridge. It's a substantial structure, and the river is a couple hundred feet below this. But it's unpaved on either end of the bridge, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So apparently, nobody's put up pictures of it. Even on Google Maps, they don't have a name for this. But the butterfly guide to Manu describes it as the Puente Union Bridge. And so there's a lot of water flowing under the bridge, and on the far side from where I took this picture, on the far side of the bridge, you can see there's kind of like cliffs or like cutaway stone where they'd done some excavation for the bridge. And there's all kinds of water flowing down through that from the mountain on the right side. And that's where he set up to spray for this first time. It wasn't on bushes, it was all along the gravel, which was all wet, and he was just spraying there were some small plants, but it's mostly on the gravel along an area that was probably about 100 yards long. And we just waited, and then all of a sudden the butterflies, they start coming in. We saw dozens of these Jordan red-banded altinotes. I don't know the difference between an altinote and an actinote is, because it's called the common name is altinote, but the genus is actinote. But there are tons of them everywhere. Here's a couple of interesting whites that we saw. If you've been to Mexico or Central America, you've probably seen the dart whites. There's a whole variety of these, but this is the one we saw as a variable, which you can also see I think in Central America and Mexico. The one on the left is a very interesting looking butterfly. The shape and the colors, it's kind of cryptic. That's also in Central America too. I got this common name from the Glassberg book on Mexico and Central America. So we also saw some very beautiful metal marks. Here's the Bologna metal mark. This one is so pretty. It has its own page, its own slide. Um, and these butterflies are just remarkable. Um, Here's another one, which I've seen in guidebooks and I never saw it in person. It's pretty eye-popping. Called the Pink Sea Beauty Mark. The old common name was Dyson Swordtail, but I'm going by the Dr. Glassberg Beauty Mark denomination. Got a picture of both the ventral and the dorsal, and uh, just when you see these things on the ground, or I mean, it just takes your breath away. There's a couple more metal marks. Uh, Emesis on the right. If you've been to Lower Rio Grande Valley, you've seen other members of this genus, although not in this color. There's, I think, 3 or 4 different emesis down that you can see in the McAllen area. The butterfly on the right, Ancylurus, is that again, it's a metal mark. I think it's closely related to the beauty marks, or actually, it is considered a beauty mark. It doesn't have the sword tails on it, but it's in that family. There was a number of these butterflies. I'm going to go through 3 or 4 slides of these periclouds. These things just took my breath away. These you can see a lot of these pictures now. The pictures you see that are on rocks or on gravel were taken at that bridge. And if I'm kind of trying to keep the butterfly families together, so it's going to be a mix of the different sites. If you see it on with green background in shrubs and all that, it's probably either from the lodge, or because the lodge had gardens along the pathways and everything where we saw some interesting butterflies, or we went to another site that was down towards the, I guess, east, down towards the Amazon at a lower elevation when we were at Cock of the Rock. But these are at that bridge. And this is the white streak paracloud, the dorsal and the ventral view. Here's another one. This is the falcate paracloud, because of the shape of the wing, obviously. Cool butterfly. Here's another one. This is the bladed paracloud, same family, Parasama. And I think this cyan bandit on the left, I think that's my favorite. I just love that green color. This is not the same species. This is 2 different species. I did not get a dorsal of one or the ventral of the other. You can see on the gray paracloud, you can see the dorsal must be some kind of teal color there. You can see it peeking out through that where the wing is eroded away. This is closely related. This is, if you know anything at all about tropical butterflies, you probably heard of the 88, because that was one of the first ones I heard of a long time ago before I was even into butterflies. But when I went to Ecuador, the guide said, well, look at the 88 number on the side of the butterfly. And it's, it kind of, it's something everybody can relate to. This is in that family. This is called a 6-spotted 88. But it's the Peru variant on it. This is dorsal and ventral.
There's only.
Well, there's this little spot here. Yeah. And so this is called an 88. It doesn't look like an 88 like the traditional 88. I'm going to show you an 89 later. But these are called, because they're closely related to the 88s. They've been described as colloquially as vague number marks, because they don't actually have a number on it, but it's very similar to that type of butterfly. So they're called vague number marks.
So I'm like actually graduated 2024 with a degree in ecology from Rutgers, but I don't know a ton about butterflies, so why are they called 88s?
You'll see when we get to the 89, you'll understand. Um, I don't have an 88 to show you that has a classic 88 number. So this was taken at the lodge. We saw a number of long wings. This is one of them, and you can see that you almost don't notice it because it doesn't stand out. There's a yellow butterfly on the right. It's a Eurema. I think it might be a Salam Eurema, or yes, Salam yellow. Um, but Eurema that's the same genus that the sleepy orange we get here in New Jersey is, or the little yellow, or some of the other ones you see down in Texas. Here's some heliconians. The butterfly in the upper left, the clear wing mimic queen it's a clear wing butterfly. It's not a heliconian. It's not a long wing, but it is transparent, and it does kind of look like a monarch in a sense. Not the colors obviously, but the markings and the markings on the thorax and the head and the antenna. And I think that's why it's called a mimic queen, because it kind of looks like that type of butterfly. Um, but so there's two other long wings, the Sarah long wing and the Telesiph. Here's another clear wing on the left, and then Andromaca clear wing. And then this is a tricolored something or other. I'm not sure. This genus Hyaliris. There's I couldn't find out much information about this one. It was actually even hard to find the Latin name for it. And there is no common name apparently. So here's a better photo of the Brazilian lady. You can see on the forewings, there's kind of a rich navy blue color that we don't really see on the American lady, and the orange is supposed to be a little bit brighter orange than what we see. But it sure looked like an American lady. I saw a number of them, and I didn't even take a photo of it because I just assumed it was an American lady. And then I realized it might be something different. I better go take a photo of it. So next one I saw some mapwings, the bandit mapwing and the red mapwing. Here's a Cinderella mapwing. I don't know why it's called that, but I thought it was a very beautiful, again, beautiful shade of navy blue on the forewings and a rich orange color. And then the ventral side is very interesting.
Didn't they form tiger wings at one time?
No, that's a different. We'll see some dagger wings. These are mapwings. There's a dagger wing for you. The waiter dagger wing on the right. And then the rusty tip page. The rusty tip page, you can see all the way. They might have seen them in Texas at time. There might be a couple records for Lower Rio Grande Valley. I know it goes up all the way through Central America and Mexico. It's a big butterfly, the rusty tip page. This waiter dagger wing, though, you'll only see it in South America. It doesn't go up into Central America. Here's a sister. There's a number of sisters. If you've been down into, well, even in Texas, you can see several different types of sisters. This one in particular, I thought was kind of interesting because of the overlap of the white lines and the orange line here. Usually you have a white line that extends to a certain area and then the orange takes over from there, or it's just orange or it's just white. But this is the only one I can think of that has the overlapping lines. And then the ventral side of these things are always, all these butterflies, it's amazing when you see one side of it and then you see the other side, and you would never guess it was the same animal. Here's another lady. This is a very interesting one because there's no orange and no white in it. It's just brown with a pink. I think the subspecies Lara of this raid sister is this reddish orange color in the Glassberg Guide to Central America. This species the subspecies that they see up in Central America, that red would be just the same type of orangey yellow that you see in most sisters. Like this color orange. So here's another sister. The butterfly on the left this is not a great photo. We didn't see many Papilio swallowtails, but this was one we saw that I saw it flash by, and it was a huge. It just had an appearance of just being this huge butterfly. It flashed across the road and it went way off the road into the bush, and I was able on my tiptoes to see it perched on top of a bush, like maybe 50 feet away. And this is the best photo I could get of it. And it took me a while to figure out what it was, but it's a Bacchus swallowtail. This Terroris genus is, I guess, the new name for that used to be known as Papilio, if you're familiar with that. Papillon. The Papilio is a swallowtail. Used to be the swallowtail genus. So here's another interesting nymphalid, the orange and blue banner. Here's a couple different views of it. I thought this was a very pretty one, so I'm showing you 3 different views. Here's a catone, which is something I hadn't seen before, but I saw a couple of different species of catone down there. This is the cloud forest catone. You can see it's got a very bright orange stripe across the top. Now this is a leaf wing, and you can see if you only saw the butterfly, if you only saw it closed up like you see on the left there, you wouldn't think it's much to look at. And that's what we saw actually. This was on the road. I had that photo of the entrance to the Cock of the Rock Lodge, what looked like a little bus platform, and we were just unloading our bags, or we were getting ready to put our stuff in the vehicle to go out for the day. And this butterfly was sitting in the road, and all of a sudden it took off, and we saw that flash of pink, and we followed it, and we were able to find it on the bush. It landed in grass off the road, too far to get to stand over the top of it and get a nice photo looking down on it. So it's kind of at an angle, but it opened up for us, and we got that view of that pink color. It was just crazy. So
Little tiny plant.
what's that?
There's mites on the top part of it.
Up here?
Yeah.
Oh, there? Maybe. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be, or scar or something. Here's another interesting one. Look at those colors, huh? Yeah, the leaf wings. So they're so cryptic when they're closed up, but for some reason there's some of the flashiest butterflies there are when they're open. That's the king leaf wing. There's a noble leaf wing that's more common, and you see it in Central America. This one is not, doesn't extend up that far. And so here's again, these butterflies are on gravel, so this means these were at that bridge. I must have seen at least a half a dozen, if not more, of these species of these little brown butterflies, the little satyrs. And once I got back and looked at my photos and was doing the IDs, I saw that these are called mountain satyrs, and they have interesting names. The one on the left called opal, probably because of that opal, that white streak in the center. The cure-all mountain satyr I thought was pretty funny, because if you look at the Latin name, it's Limonipoda panacea. So somebody was having fun with that and naming it the cure-all. I'm not sure why this obsolete mountain satyr is called obsolete. Maybe it's like an old version and Apple stopped supporting it a long time ago, so it's out of date. Now, these are 2 of my favorite butterflies, even though they're not eye-popping colors. They're very cryptic. They kind of remind me, I've never seen the alpines and the Arctics except in the guidebooks, and they kind of remind me of that type of butterfly. where they live in such harsh, stony um, environments that they don't, that their way of camouflaging is to look like this. And this is two different species, um, but from the same genus, Steroma.
See the eyes.
Yeah, is the eye there and there. Yep. And it's very strangely shaped wings. You can see it has like almost like a hump on it. And then this is all like fringed, but it's not your typical fringe that you see that you can see on other butterflies. And this one doesn't have that, and it doesn't have the humps. So looks like what? Yeah. Here's another very pretty satyr. When I started seeing these, like, wow, satyrs are pretty neat. The red color really was uh, this was a big one too. This was a good sized butterfly. So when it opened up like that, it was really pretty to see. Um, this particular one, I think this one was just hanging out, with the open, absorbing the sun. It depends on the weather conditions and all that, and some of the butterflies I had to like that king leaf wing with those really crazy colors. That would go. So I sat there and timed and probably took like 50 photos until I got one that had you can in focus where you could see the crazy colors, even though it isn't fully open. Here's four or three different satyrs from the Caratas genus. Um, the Enyo satyr on the left, the top and bottom. That's what it looks like inside. I didn't get the dorsal view of the two on the right, um, but just quite a variety. More satyrs, different genuses. This is four different genuses here. The one on the bottom is called an Acreta mimic satyr. I think there's a butterfly called the Acreta that might be a that's not a satyr that it's mimicking possibly. I'm not sure. I didn't look that up. But some of these look kind of like, almost like the Gerlinda looks not that different than our pearly eyes. Here's another satyr, open and close. I really like the squiggly orange line on this one. So now we're to the skippers of the middle Manu Road. We've just been covering what I saw around the Cock of the Rock Lodge, both north and south of it. We're going to go down after we get through the skippers here, we're going to go down and see the lower elevation butterflies and all different stuff. So this is a pretty interesting looking skipper. I got a taste of how colorful skippers could be when I went to Lower Rio Grande Valley and saw some of the ones down there. Because up here we have grass skippers and we have the brown spread wings, and we don't have anything like this in New Jersey. So I never really was much of a skipper savant. So here's more skippers. The two-barred flasher up in the upper left, and then just some of these. I think the two-barred flasher and the pale sickle wing, I think you can see in Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The spicata, I couldn't identify it because there's about 10 different species, and I couldn't find descriptions that would tell me what to look for in terms of marks, and they all look the same. Here's an interesting grass skipper, the silver-plated skipper. And at that bridge there, we saw a number of skipperlings. This is 5 different species of skipperling. The ones on the left, on the right side is the same species, dorsal and ventral. Then they're all from the same genus except for the one in the center on the bottom. And I thought Wade might want to see some moths. And even the moths down there are eye-popping. And these aren't the best moths. We'll see some towards the end that are just probably prettier than any of the butterflies you're going to see tonight. How you like that bee? An orchid bee. It was a good sized bee too. It was probably about the size of a bumblebee. This is right at the lodge, just nectaring on the flowers in the gardens. You actually see its tongue sticking way down into the, trying to stick in down way into the flower. And so then we drove from Macocula Rock after 2 days of butterflying and birding and down to the lowest level we were going to get at, which was 1,700 feet. And this lemon-throated barbet greeted us on the driveway into the lodge. And so that was a good omen. The lodge is a research station. They actually have a DNA sequencing lab, and they have people, that scientists that rotate in and out of there to do research from the Amazon, and they have facilities here where they can do some things that they can't do in the jungle. But it's also open to the public. It's a lodge where you can stay. Very nice cabins or huts or whatever you want to call them, right on a lake. So here's a Manu Bio Lodge lunch, and this is fish grown right on the premises. They have a pond, and they grow fish for consumption. And they told me it wasn't a piranha, but it sure looks like a piranha, doesn't it? I mean, it's got teeth. I mean, maybe they don't look quite as sharp as a piranha's teeth, but
Looks like it could be a nut cracking.
yeah, I mean, because they don't look like pointy teeth. They look like, yeah. I wouldn't want to stick my finger in there. And so that's our guide, Miguel, and the driver, I forget his name. So here's the only other swallowtail, although there's no swallowtails on it. But it's in that family, the swallowtail family, the hipposon. And so when we went down to the Mano Bio Lodge, where we butterflied there were a couple different places. There was a trail from the main lodge through a really thick jungle, really thick forest, that went about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, and dead ended at a big river. I forget the name of the river, but something you wouldn't want to try to walk across the Delaware River. You wouldn't want to try to swim or walk across this river either. The flow is unbelievable. But the jungle, or the forest that you're walking through, is very enclosed. They cut a path through it, and you know how stuff grows down there. It's like they probably enough just to clear a path through it. It's actually, you have stuff overhead too, and it could get very dark in there, and we saw some real interesting satyrs. You'll see that are almost like, they call them phantoms, because it's so dark, and they only get active late at night, or not late in the afternoon, when it's starting to get dusky, and they look just like shadows moving around. It's really hard to find them. But the other place we went, which is where both of these photos were taken, was we went back into the town of Pilcapata and then took a dirt road out towards a native community, indigenous community, they call it. We didn't go all the way to the indigenous community, but along that road, it crossed several streams, and there's no bridges. When you just drive your car across the water, the water is maybe a foot deep, and we went to this certain river where the guide had obviously butterflied before, and it's like a lot of sand and a lot of stream bed and all that, with a river running through it, and he sprayed his stuff on the sand, on the gravel, and then on the bushes all the way along. And we saw just a great variety of things, including these two swallowtails. We saw the three of these butterflies, except for the orange-tipped angled sulfur, we saw at this stream crossing, which is the word for it is quebrada. which I think just means stream crossing. And the lower right-hand butterfly, the ghost yellow, is a very interesting one because it's not these are all periods, but it's not a yellow. I mean, it's not a white, it's a yellow. It's in the genus Eurema. This is related to the sleepy orange, except it's white. So you can see why they call it ghost. So a number of hair streaks. Uh, if I had any disappointment about this trip, it was that I didn't see as many hair streaks as I would have liked to have seen, and I didn't see some of the crazy ones that you see when you look in the guidebook. These are kind of like, they could easily be something you'd see in New Jersey, except maybe for the zebra stripe streak. But now on to metal marks. So the painted Theope, when we saw that thing, that was probably smaller than a pinky nail. It was a tiny little butterfly. And when you get your binoculars on it, it just looks like a speck when you have it to your naked eye, and you get your binoculars on it and you're like, what am I looking at? It's just such a strange color palette for a butterfly, gray and blue and yellow. The butterfly on the right is from the genus Serota, but that's as far as I could identify it. Our guide Miguel, and we looked through this 800-page guide, which had maybe 10 pages of Serotas on it, and this was not in any of them. So we don't know what this is. It could just be a variant of something that was in the guidebook and they just didn't have enough photos, or it could be something that, and he's actually, our guide Miguel sent this photo or sent one of his photos of this butterfly to the guy who actually writes the guide. He knows the guy who does the butterfly guidebooks that I told you about, and he didn't know what it was. Here's two more. So the Serotas are real interesting. The Anteros are really interesting metal marks too. The one on the black bellied, you can see it does have a little black belly on the one on the right, and you can probably figure out why they called the one on the left the studded jewel mark, because it has all those. They almost look like just globs of solder on it, and that's how they look like to the naked eye too. And again, these are small butterflies too. Finding these really small ones took a lot of work, or like it was fun, because it was like, when a big butterfly flies in and lands, it's like, oh, there's a butterfly, let's go see it. But this is like hunting for treasure, just looking really carefully and going back and forth. And a lot of times, metal marks might be on the underside of a leaf, so you'd have to find it there and then hope you can, like the one on the butterfly on the left might be. I know at one point we were able to turn the leaf over without the butterfly flying and taking photos. That might be one of those photos. I'm not sure. But we saw the two Anteros jewel marks. Here's more of those Ancillaris, the acute beauty mark and the Edius beauty mark. I have a ventral view of the Edius on the right, which I'm going to show you in a second, but I put these two together. So if I had them on different pages, you'd think, and I flipped the page, you'd think you were seeing the same butterfly, but when you see them side by side, you can see the difference in colors and the outlines of the blue on the edges of this red, and the shape of this is different, so that's two different species. They were, maybe 20 feet away from each other. So if you look, the Edius beauty mark on the right, I'm going to change the page, and the ventral for this one is going to be on the right also. So that's what it looks like underneath the blue. So that's what it looks like on top and underneath. And then the variable beauty mark was one. I didn't get the dorsal photo of that one, but that looks similar to the pink sea beauty mark we saw earlier. There's another metal mark, the orange spotted. Now this is, you can see, you can kind of tell this is taken in a in a dark area, especially the photo on the right. This was that path I was telling you through the forest. You'd be looking for the butterflies on, like a lot of butterflies would land in the sun, just like they do the forest butterflies we have, here in New Jersey, like uh, so this one looks like dark background, and he's just on a patch of sun there. Here's another one that's similar to the Bologna metal mark, except it's this is this is actually the one. The photo on the right is the one that I had on the cover page at the beginning of the presentation. But there's the Apollo metal mark. This is crazy, isn't it? More metal marks. The stain scintillant was the photo. It's really kind of hard to capture the iridescence and the different colors that you see in it. And to the eye, the photos don't always do justice to some of these things. There's two more metal marks, just different genuses, just slapped together randomly on this page because of the number of photos I have.
That's a milkweed.
Yeah, that one. So that might have been taken. So the lodge had gardens, and that's where we saw some of they had gardens, and they had water feature with plants with water plants in it, and they had the milkweed there. That's where we saw that one. This one on the sand. This would have been at the Quebrada, the one on the right. So here's some long wings, heliconians. Bernese longwing, Errata cygnus longwing. These two look very similar, but it's two different species. This is the dorsal and ventral of the Doris, or dot, what used to be called a Doris heliconian. The Glassberg guide calls it a dot bordered. So on top we have two clear wings, and on the bottom we have two tiger wings. Different, all of them are different genuses. I think the Mechanitis on the lower right is what they call the disturbed tiger wing, if I'm not mistaken. And here's some crescents. We got the Clio crescent on the left, the top and bottom is the same. And then we got another Acria mimic. Remember that satyr was called an Acria mimic satyr, and this is a crescent that mimics an Acria, whatever an Acria is. I should have looked it up. And this, the white dotted crescent on the bottom here, bottom right was a very tiny butterfly. It was maybe an inch across. Scarlet peacocks. Here's some red butterflies. This red flasher is, I didn't get a dorsal view of that, but the dorsal view, it looks kind of similar to the way the sister has the wavy lines on it, but bright blue and black. This butterfly we saw just take off, and it landed here, and then I got a photo, and then it took off again. Didn't get very good looks at it, but it's quite a beauty. Here's another page. This is like a smaller. Remember the rusty tip page we saw at the Cock of the Rock Lodge? Like I said, it was a big butterfly. A lot of the pages are. This is a relatively small one. I thought it was a crescent at first until I got home and but the fringe, or whatever you want to call it, on the edges just didn't look like their typical crescent. There's a variety of sisters. And when you look in the guidebook, there's probably dozens of species of sisters, every variation you can think of on brown, yellow, and white. So here's an 89. Somebody was asking about why they call it an 88. This is an 89. The 88 would look like two of these. And then the butterfly on the right is also an 88, but doesn't look like an 88, but they call it that for some reason. But it's called a crimson 88. I didn't see the dorsal view of this, but you can see a little bit of red there. And in the guide, when you look at the photo of it, it's just a bright red inside. It must be gorgeous to see. Orange banner, 3 views of an orange banner. And another 88 up in the top left corner, yep. And some kind of interesting fly next to it, that green spot out of focus. So here's a banner, a little banner. This is a tiny butterfly. This one was not actually in the guide. I did find it in a guide to Colombia. So maybe this is one that's missing from the Manu guidebook. But the one on the right is an olive wing. I didn't get good photos of this, but it's interesting butterfly because it actually the ventral side on the wings is like an olive green color. You can kind of see it here. The lighting wasn't great, but then it's got that bright blue and other colors inside. Here's the other catone. We saw catone earlier. I got a nice photo of the ventral view of this one. This is a Acontius firewing. This was on that road, that dirt road where we went to the stream crossings, and this is one of the ones we saw. I saw this further away from where we had sprayed. I just wandered down the road and the road was wet. It was almost, well, it felt like I was walking on some of the roads you see, like in some of the wildlife management areas where it looks like a road, but there's like a little stream running through it. It's because the whole ground is wet. Here's some purple wings. We got a dorsal and ventral on 2 different species. The shining and the gray purple wings. And crackers. Who doesn't like a good cracker? The one on the left was at that stream crossing, and it had been on the ground when I first saw it. And as I approached it, it flew up. It's actually on I don't know if it's a snag or a telephone pole. It was on a trunk of a tree. It was either, like I said, either a telephone pole, or I forget now, or a snag, about 30 feet up. And it's a heavily cropped photo, but I couldn't pass it up. The colors on it were just pretty stunning. And the one on the right you can see this is stucco that it's on. This was on the side of one of the huts at the lodge. And that's the only place we saw it. I just saw it the one time and got the photo, and then it disappeared. Here's some red rings, a species I was totally unfamiliar with before going down there. It's 3 different species of red ring, named for an obvious reason. And the one on the top right is called unstrutted because it doesn't have the red strut that these two have. But I don't know why this one's called white edged. If you may have seen a Blomfield's beauty down in Texas, or may have heard of it. This is in the same family, called a bureau of the Blomfield's beauty. This is the new beauty. Thought that was a pretty interesting one. It's a good sized butterfly too. It's not like a hair streak size. It's like a like a lady sized butterfly. It's a good sized lady, good sized butterfly. Here's some dagger wings. Again, all in the sand. All this stuff just appeared out of the woods when you start spraying foul stuff on the ground to attract them. Here's the Propona. Which was one of those ones that would flash really quickly. I didn't get a nice sharp photo of the open, because these things rarely were open. But it's almost like a morpho. I'm sure you've all seen videos, if not a real morpho, where they open up and it's like blue lightning. Here's some more leaf wings, the Orion Cecropian and the Acidilia leaf wing. There's a lot of leaf wings down there. And a lot of them look very similar when they're closed up. It's only when they're open that you really can tell the difference. So this is the only owl butterfly. This is the closest we got to a morpho. There's an owl butterfly that we saw on the grounds uh, of the lodge. We were walking through on a woods trail away from the main building to go see this old Soviet era aircraft that's abandoned on the grounds of this lodge, which apparently used to be used to bring in supplies and stuff back in the 60s and 70s. I think it's a 50s era Soviet made airplane, and they were using it all the way until like the early 80s or something in this jungle here. So as a benefit of going to look for that, we got to see the owl, which is a huge butterfly. That's probably about 3 or 4 inches across. So here's some of the interesting satyrs that we saw. These are the phantoms I was telling you about. And you really, I didn't use flash. If I had flash, I could have gotten better photos. It was so dark in there. It was really, some of these photos are taken like at 1/60th of a second. And so the center and the one on the right are genus Perella. And there's something interesting about that genus, which is that it's the only genus of butterfly whose hind wings are larger than its forewings, according to Wikipedia. I don't have any reason to doubt it, but that's one of the distinctive things about it. And then you can see the one on the left it's a satyr, but it's a clear wing satyr with this huge pink spot on it. Now that when you see that thing move through the forest, all you see is the pink. It looks like you don't even know what you're seeing. You're just seeing this pink, bright pink thing just moving through the woods. Here's more satyrs. This is the genus Tagetes, and I saw there's a couple more on the next page, and I don't know what it is about them, but these butterflies really struck me as just being they're simple, but the beauty of them just really struck me. And again, these are like cryptic forest butterflies. Until you get them in light, they just look like a dark thing moving through the ground, usually low and quick and not coming out into the light. So the one on the left, that really was hard to see. And I really didn't even know what I was looking at until I got home and I had to play with the levels on the photo in order to actually get it so I could see what the butterfly looked like. Because it was in such dark light and it's such dark color. It almost looks really primitive. But it's called a blackened Eurosatyr for obvious reasons. It almost looks like it's black. Here's some more typical type satyrs. The one on the right is a ringlet, or it's called a Valentina ringlet. Now, these are two different genuses. The one on the right is genus Sorona, and that was just described in, I think, in the 2020s. A new genus. There's two species in it, Sorona oryngera and Sorona triangulata. And it's named Sorona after the eyes of Sauron from Lord of the Rings. It's just another typical kind of satyr that you see down there. We saw many different species of satyrs that look like this, or like the one on the right or left rather, very common. It was unusual though to see a satyr sitting open like that, but like the photo on the right, I mean the left rather. And there was a whole family of blue satyrs. This is 4 different species of blue satyrs that we saw down there. Again, on this one path. All these satyrs, these are all on this one path. I went there a couple different times of the day, but uh, the sunburst, named for an obvious reason. And let's see, now we're almost, what time is it anyway? I'm not paying attention. Are we okay? Yeah, 8 o'clock. Okay, I'm not far from done. So here's some spread wings. The fire tip is an interesting one with the red tip on its tail. Then there's a yellow tipped and a green flasher. I like these bent wing skippers, especially the one on the left. The blue and the black rings is very pretty. And that's not the butterfly in the lower left is not a common checkered skipper. It's not a tropical checkered skipper. It's not a desert checkered skipper. But don't ask me why it's an orchis checkered skipper, because I didn't need to know, because the other ones don't live where this one was. This is the only checkered skipper in this area. So I'm sure there's some 1 or 2 dots that are missing or extra added that could tell me the difference between that and a common checkered skipper, but I didn't bother to learn the difference. Now this sooty wing is pretty cool, huh? It has like an iridescent green to it. The green-shouldered sooty wing. Is that it? Okay, so it's just one more spread wing in the upper right, but the rest, we're getting down to the end here. Here's some grass skippers, Shy Saliana and Radiant Brown Skipper, and some nondescript brown skipper like we have up here in New Jersey. Now here's the moths I was telling you about. These were all in the water feature, in and around the water feature and gardens of the lodge. And the one on the right has clear wings. And the two in the center and the right, I mean, the colors are just crazy. I thought Tom might be here tonight, or Mike Tracy. I figured I'd throw up a dragonfly for them. And here's some interesting bugs. Anybody likes bugs? I know we have a couple of insect enthusiasts, maybe Fred Pfeiffer. I know he's watching on Zoom. Here's some beetles of various different kinds. The one in the center was a good-sized beetle, probably about 1.5 inches long. And I saw it flying across. I just saw this black and orange thing flying, like flutter flying, like slow, not fast like a dragonfly, not fast like a butterfly, just kind of floating across the yard. We were at the lodge, and I followed it and followed it and followed it and followed it, and finally it landed. And that's what I had no idea it was a beetle till it landed, and I saw what I was looking at. So it's elementary, my dear Watson. That Manu Road is a very interesting place to go for birds and butterflies. And there will be no questions. Thank you. Just kidding. Oh, there we go. All right. So that's it. That's my spiel.
Well, God.
Are there any questions, or?
Did I tell you that, look, even really good ones, the photograph, like they're unusual?
No,
No.
no. He sprayed, and then we just, like, if one of us would find a really cool one, we'd go tell the other people, so I was showing him stuff, he was showing me stuff. It's just like everybody was out looking, Rob, and even our driver was looking and showed us a couple of things. Yeah. Should we put this on, I don't know if anybody online is gonna have any questions.
Yeah, we
Do you
can,
need-
let's do.
Yeah, yeah.
room first.
But, yeah,
Lights. Lights on. Why don't press slide? I'm sorry.
sorry, what?
I did have a question. though.
Yes.
There seemed to be a lot of spraying going on. It was a part of the deal where the participants had to contribute with when the well went dry.
Well, so the answer is no,
Oh, really?
because we drove around in a van with a couple of jugs like this in the back, and one time the wrapper got off of it, and we had to get out of the car because it smelled so bad. And our guide was very cagey about, because, you know, being people who are interested in nature and animals and everything else, we all asked a lot of questions, right? So, what kind of urine is it? He didn't really want to say. So I don't know.
I thought it might have been part of the deal.
No. You mean like give a discount? Or rebate?
Okay,
Any other
Did they do
question?
Outline it, lighting for moths.
One of the lodges had a sheet out, but we that was at Cock of the Rock. They had a sheet out at night, but we got mostly rain at night, so we didn't get it. There were a couple of interesting moths that we find, like I think you found one in a bathroom once, a big moth or something like that.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you keep a trip list? How many species did you see? Hundred.
All I know is I could tally them from my photos. If I don't have a photo of it, I didn't keep up.
Yeah.
I didn't do a check because I could have done a check because I didn't. I got photos of most of there was a couple where you'd see it and it disappeared before you get a photo, but that would be like a handful. Most of them we were able to get photos of. What camera?
Yeah.
Canon R5. Canon R5 with the 100 to 500 lens, which Jonathan knows. And if you read the NABA's magazine and you looked at the most recent photograph winners, almost all the photos were taken with this 1-to-1/500 lens. It's just like it's replaced the need for a macro lens pretty much. It's just such a super sharp lens, and it's got a much longer range on it.
There's some questions in the chat. What time? I don't know if you mentioned this, but what time of year were you there?
Oh, May. This
May.
is May of 2024.
One question, did you learn any of the effects of climate change?
Did I learn of any effects of climate change? Not that I could tell.
Okay.
I did rain a hell of a lot, but I don't know whether it's more than usual or not.
half the people that were at the lodge maybe would know.
Yeah, yeah.
Photo equipment you just mentioned. What's your next trip?
Oh, that's my son. To the Pantanal.
Okay. Anyone on Zoom wants to unmute and ask a question, you can do that now. You're not hearing anything?
Nope.
Any other last question in the room?
Yeah, I came in a little
No,
late.
it's just the two of us and the guide and the driver. Yeah. Which we found, once we've done that, it's kind of hard to go back to a group.
Yeah.
Because when you see something you like, you can stay there. It's not like, come on, we gotta go because this guy wants to get this one for his list. It's like, no, you call the shots.
What were some of the what were
He
some of
does, yeah, Tanager Tours, tanagertours.com. Yeah, he's got lots of pretty photos on it. It's not the most professional website, but he's just this guy that lives in Cusco and does this for fun, and it's and you know, it's a risk going with somebody you don't know. We found this guy just by searching on the internet because we wanted to find somebody who would do butterflies and birds in Peru, but it worked out great. He's super guide, recommended to anybody. And he specializes in birds. Like, I think I was telling Chris this, that he'll go anywhere. He'll backpack and camp to go find a rare bird out in the middle of the mountains or the jungle or whatever. And he's done that. He has people that come to him, you know, like people that have to have every bird on their list that are missing a couple. He'll, you know, you want to hire this guy to go find 3 species. He's game for that kind of thing, and he's good at it. He does work for the government, and he's contributed a lot to these guides, and he knows the photo guide. So he's a good guy.
What were some of the major sources you used for IG?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. And we liked it so much, we went back, this is from 2024. We went back in May of 2025. He took us into Colombia. And so I told them after enough time passes, I recover from putting this thing together. I'll do the one to the Colombia trip, because that was another interesting habitat. We did Cerro Montezuma. It's just a choco. Again, it's another road where you start at one elevation down in the jungle, and it goes up 8 miles to it ends at like 9,000 feet or something like that. And there's actually a military base up there, but you see all different whole suites of species of butterflies and birds at the different elevations.
How was that,
How was what road?
that road going up to the top?
It was, he's costing me a softball. It was the worst road we've ever been on. It was just atrocious. And we had to turn around a couple times one day because there's landslides at times, and they had to trees came down, had to be cut away. And that's the next story.
Well, thank you, Stephen. That was a great presentation.